I was the victim of a romance scam and I can't believe I was so stupid. I want to start by saying this is incredibly difficult for me to post. The embarrassment and shame I feel is overwhelming. The anxiety from everything I've gone through, and continue to go through, because of this scam is real, and it's something I never imagined I'd experience. I thought I was too smart to fall for something like this, but here I am. Looking back now, I realize this was a long con from the start. It all began in January of this year, on Instagram of all places. At the time, I was struggling emotionally, feeling neglected, ignored, and unloved in my marriage. It was the perfect storm for someone to prey on my vulnerabilities. I wanted to believe someone cared about me, and this person seemed to show me that kind of attention. He told me he was in the army, stationed in El Paso, and he was special forces. He even had the Instagram photos to back up his story, at least, that's what I thought at the time. The story shifted when he said he was being deployed overseas. That's when the manipulation started, slowly at first, with small, believable stories that tugged at my heartstrings. I didn't want to believe it at first. Who asks someone for money to pay for a sick child's medical bills? Or to pay rent for their older child? Or for safety equipment needed for a mission in a war zone? It all sounded ridiculous, but he spun such convincing tales. And every time I hesitated, he would remind me, "Don't you care about my safety?" I wanted to believe that I did, that I was being a good person by helping. Over the next several months, he wore me down. Slowly but surely, I sent him over $8,000 via PayPal. Each time, it was to different email addresses, always through friends and family to avoid the fees. And I paid every single time, thinking I was helping someone who truly needed me. The requests kept coming, sometimes for things as outrageous as emergency mission supplies or urgent needs to get back to the States. I convinced myself that if I didn't help, something terrible could happen to him. I was already emotionally invested, and each time he'd send me a message or a phone call, it felt like he was pulling me in deeper. Then the red flags started to pile up. I began to notice something wasn't right. His behavior became more desperate and accusatory. When I couldn't send any more money because I simply didn't have it, he started accusing me of being selfish, telling me I didn't care about him anymore. He claimed he loved me, but I was treating him like garbage. I tried to end things a couple of times, but each time, he'd reel me back in with more stories of hardship and loss. I didn't know how to say no. He knew exactly how to manipulate my emotions. At one point, I asked him to pay me back. I thought maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. I wanted to believe he would make it right. But instead of a sincere offer to repay me, he said he was going to send a check, money he owed me for all I had done. I actually started to feel hopeful again. I gave him my address, though I was hesitant. But in my desperation to believe something good would come of this, I agreed to give him a physical address to send the check. When the check arrived, the first thing that caught my attention was that the postmark didn't match the state where he said he was sending it from. But it got worse, the check was drawn from a company in another state altogether. My heart dropped. I knew, deep down, something was terribly wrong. I called my bank, explained the situation, and they immediately told me to avoid depositing the check at all costs. They said it was likely a scam, and I should report it. That's when I knew for sure. I had been scammed. But it wasn't just the financial loss, it was the emotional toll. The trust one had put into this person was shattered. I felt so stupid for having fallen for it, even after everything seemed off. But I couldn't change what had already happened. I filed a report with the IC3, gathered as much information as I could, and even stored the check in a safe. That's when I thought I was done. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. But I was wrong. Fast forward a few weeks, and the threat started. He began telling me that if I didn't give him the money back, he would release private photos and videos of me to my family, friends, and co-workers. He swore up and down that I had cashed the check but was simply holding on to the money. I was horrified. His threats seemed to escalate, and I couldn't escape it. I tried blocking him on Instagram, Gmail, and Google Chat, but the harassment didn't stop. The emails kept coming, and though Gmail marked them as spam, I still read them, still felt the weight of every cruel word. I decided I couldn't let this continue to control my life, so I made a rule: I would delete his emails without reading them. It didn't make the fear go away, but it made me feel like I had some control again. But I knew I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. I wanted to share this with others to warn them about the dangers of online scams, especially when you're in a vulnerable place. No matter how lonely you feel, no matter how much you want to believe that someone truly cares about you, please, don't fall for this kind of manipulation. It can happen to anyone. After a lot of thought and discussion with my husband, who has known about all of this almost from the start, I reported the threats to the FBI. The fear is still there, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I refuse to continue doing his bidding. I've warned my friends and family, shared his Instagram handle, and told them to block and report him. I've reported his account to Instagram as harassment, hoping that someone will stop him before he does this to someone else. I'm sharing this story here because I hope it can serve as a warning. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this, no matter how convincing the person seems, remember that you are not alone. It's not your fault, and there are ways out. Just don't make the same mistake I did.
My dad doesn't believe he's a victim of a romance scam, but he definitely is, and I don't know what to do about it. Here's what happened. This situation has become a nightmare, and I'm reaching a breaking point. I want to share my story to get it off my chest, but also to maybe get some advice or hear from others who have been in a similar situation. The background: my dad, a 73-year-old man, has been under the spell of a woman named Cassandra for the past 3 years. He's not tech-savvy, not even close, and honestly, it feels like he's gotten caught in a web that's beyond his comprehension. Here's where it all started. Cassandra found him on Facebook. According to my dad, she's a 43-year-old woman from Germany who's a multimillionaire. She sent him a friend request and started chatting with him. At first, my dad was skeptical, but she laid it on thick with flattering compliments. She claimed she liked him for his mature, strong personality and for being so understanding about the struggle she's going through. According to her, she's been having major issues with immigration, and it's preventing her from getting citizenship and blocking her money. Of course, this all seemed like a plausible story to my dad. She was well-spoken, confident, and, most importantly, made him feel important, something he hadn't felt in a long time. She painted herself as a successful, independent woman who just so happened to be struggling with some bureaucratic issues. She talked about how much she wanted to marry him and how they could have an amazing life together once all her immigration issues were sorted out. To hear my dad talk about it, she was basically his soulmate. He'd never been more in love and had never felt so validated by someone in his life. But here's the catch: this woman, if she even exists, is a scammer. And my dad, as much as I hate to admit it, is a perfect victim. Over the past 3 years, his life has slowly deteriorated, piece by piece, all because of her. He's lost friends who saw through the scam and tried to intervene. He's lost his house, his savings were drained by his constant sending of money to her. And it's heartbreaking to say, but he's becoming malnourished. He doesn't eat properly anymore, and his mental state has worsened. I've tried talking to him over and over, begging him to see that this woman is lying, that she's stealing from him, but he refuses to listen. It's like there's a mental block, nothing I say seems to get through. I've watched this all unfold over the years, and it's become clear that my dad is being manipulated and preyed on, but he can't seem to grasp the truth. And the worst part: he's now completely financially unstable. He doesn't see it, but he's been conducting unsecured business transactions, sending her money by mail, wiring it to various accounts she's given him, all while she plays this long game of pretending to be the woman of his dreams. Every time he gets low on cash, he'll turn to me or my family for more money, convinced that if he sends just one more payment, she'll finally be able to come to him and they'll live happily ever after. I hit a breaking point recently when he asked me for more money again. I told him I wouldn't give him anything unless he provided me with some concrete information about her, her account details, several pictures of her, which he claims to have, but I suspect they're stock photos or something stolen from the internet, her address, passport, visa, and phone number. I also told him he needs to consult with an attorney or a financial advisor to make sense of all the shady dealings. I told him I work in a sensitive job, with a security clearance through the Department of Defense, and I can't afford to risk my career over any of his business dealings with this woman. It wasn't just Cassandra who's been scamming him either. There was also the government grant scam. A while back, he was convinced by another official-sounding scammer that he had won a $250,000 government grant. Of course, this was too good to be true, and they kept demanding more money for processing fees. In total, he handed over about $20,000 for this so-called grant, with $3,000 of that coming directly from me. I'm still furious about it. He owes me $4,000 for that, and despite all the warning signs, he kept asking me for more money to send. I have to be blunt here, it's clear to me that my dad is being emotionally manipulated. I can see it, I can see the control she has over him, and it makes me sick. But nothing I say or do seems to change his mind. I've tried, I really have. He just can't seem to accept that he's a victim of a scam. He's so deeply invested in this relationship, if you can even call it that it's like I'm trying to pull him away from a drug. Every conversation, every warning, just makes him dig his heels in deeper. At this point, I've decided to cut him off. I never thought I'd be able to do it, but I've reached the end of my rope. I know that if I continue to enable him, it will only prolong his suffering and likely make things worse in the long run. It's too late now, and I have to step back. I've tried everything I can, and I'm out of options. I've come to the difficult conclusion that I will likely only see him again on his last days, or shortly after, when things finally come crashing down. And while I'm heartbroken by it, I'm done. I'm not going to give him any more money. I'm not going to let this woman destroy my family any further. I'm accepting that this is where we are now. I don't care about getting my money back, I'm beyond that. I'm just done trying to save him from himself. If he doesn't want to listen, then there's nothing I can do. It's painful, but I'm going to have to let go. If anyone reading this has advice on how to handle a situation like this, how to manage an older family member in denial about being scammed, I'm all ears. But I also want to share this story to warn others that these scams are real, and they can destroy lives, especially when the person being scammed refuses to see the truth.